This lesson will talk about baking, and by baking I don't mean baking cookies or something like that. I really mean texture baking. And some of you probably ask, why is that useful? Well, there are many reasons why that is useful. Before I tell you the reasons, let me just demonstrate what really that baking does. For example, here you remember this style shader, we built it. Okay, so if you enter here, you will see many of these shaders and these channels, and the advantage of having them is that you can actually play with them and gain different results. But disadvantage is when you have lots of channels, lots of shaders and information, especially in displacement, you will get a lot of render time. And what if you have to export this information to another 3D application, or maybe to a third-party renderer, which does not support standard Cinema 4D materials or this displacement information, or any information of that kind. Or maybe you want to flat all that information into a single image so you can freely add details in body paint. Maybe you want to export information from this displacement to a game engine, and that is why you should use normal maps. And I will show you how to generate a normal map in Cinema 4D. So there are many advantages of texture baking. So just again briefly, it speeds up render, you have a lot more of versatility, you gain in export options, and you have much better control over your scene, and you also cut down calculation time for displacements and color and any other channel. Okay, so let me show you how to bake something in Cinema 4D. Let's say we want these guys, all this information under color channel, we want it to be baked in a single image. So let's do just that. Let's select our tile and go here under render, and you can see bake texture and bake object. Well, this bake object is kind of a quick and dirty way, and I really don't recommend. I recommend this bake texture. A lot more power and control. So let's enable it, and you can see a new tag here, and here under this tag you can find various options. The first option is the file name, and it will always take the name of the object that is attached to. Here under format, well, if you are really not acquainted with 2D and formats, I suggest leaving this to Photoshop PSD or this TIFF PSD, which I, let's say, prefer sometimes. Here we can see some additional settings. You can leave them as they are, and here under automatic size I really suggest you don't use automatic size, because you will get really blocky and odd results, and it won't be good, and it can lead to a lot of frustration. And here under width and height you can select naturally the width and the height of the rendered image. So what are the good numbers for here? This default value are really too low. I suggest starting with this value, 1024 times 1024. This works in almost 95% of the cases. If you get good results, if you're really satisfied, you can then gradually lower this until you see you get somewhat bad results. If you don't get good results with this, then I suggest increasing them. Remember, if you increase this a lot, you will get really big images that are really great in size, and they will really add to render time, and they will slowly load, and they will maybe become too high resolution without actually having the need for them to be such big files. So just to cut it short, leave it at this value, and if you get satisfactory results, keep it. Maybe that's the best thing to do. Here, this super sampling guy is actually the anti-aliasing and the overall quality. I suggest starting with 1, because when you add numbers here like 2, 3, 4, and 5, you will significantly, I really cannot emphasize that enough, you will get a ludicrous render times for your textures with anything that is bigger than 3 or even 2. So go with 1. And if that doesn't yield good results, then put 2 here. Here under options, you can leave all these options as they are. And here you actually can choose the channel that you want to flat down. And we want the color channel. And you can actually preview what will that texture look like. And this preview guy sometimes sucks, just like in this case. And this can really confuse you. So please refrain yourself from using this guy. So let's now bake that texture with the settings we applied and see what we get. We will need some time to render, and you can actually see the progress here. And I will pause it just briefly until it finishes. And here we are, we have a baked texture for our color channel. And just to show you, let's get rid of these shaders here and simply load an image here. And select that tile color div. And see, now we'll ask me if I want to copy that to a document location. I will say no, just for now. And let's see if something changed. Let's do a quick test render and see what we got. And you can see all that color and shader information really flattened down to that texture. And that's the really powerful thing. You can now export this. You can do whatever you want. You can go to body paint and paint on top of this surface, which you can't while you have shaders here. This is really, really powerful. And here under bake texture tag, you can actually smell the power which is available here. There are so many applications. I really don't want to cram down your throat so many information, but this is the most simplest example I could show you. Let me show you about normal maps next. Let's talk about normal maps a bit and how we can generate normal maps within Cinema4D. We'll just slightly zoom out so you can see this is actually our test scene that we are using all the time. And I have a disk that is somewhat subdivided because I want to use displacement. And let me show you how can I create normal maps that can really increase the quality of the surface, which can really add realism without adding render time. So let me create a new material, and I will name it coin because I want to create a gold coin that will be displaced, and I want to show you the full workflow. I will load an image here under color channel. And so now we'll ask if I want to copy. I will say no. And I can leave it as it is and simply copy it. I have a few ways I can copy it. I can right click here, or I can simply drag that guy like this all the way into this displacement slot. It doesn't matter. But absolutely fine, whatever works for you. And as remember already, this 5 centimeters will be too much for you. I suspect something really small around 0.5 would work better for this purpose. And I will enable this subpolygon displacement and simply apply my material. And you will see a first problem we will solve. If you want to generate normal maps, then I highly advise you to have UVW mapping here, because otherwise you will get really odd results, and that also can lead to a lot of frustration. But as you currently can see, our image is not projected good enough on this surface, and we actually don't have this UVW tag, which I intentionally deleted just to show you how you can generate one. And so the UV mapping really fits what you desire here. First, you have to find a mapping that really works. For example, let's scroll, let's find something suitable. And often this cubic or flat will work, but If I select, you see my texture tool is here selected. If I select my object, you will see it is really too big. So let's fit it to an object. So right click, fit to object. This could work, but we must scale it all the way to cover all these objects. So let's do just that, scale it a bit. Something like this. I don't want to waste too much time for this. And now if you want this current projection to become UVW projection, you will just simply right click and state generate UVW coordinates, and this will just change the projection. It will take that cubic projection information and put it in UVW mapping, so you have this UVW mapping which is desirable for generating normal maps. Once we have this sorted out, let's do a test render, and we will get another problem, I suspect, because of these white parts in the image, and I'll just put, let's say, 6 subdivision levels here. And let's do a test render. I have to enable that displacement channel, and you will see that render times really increase. And just as I suspect, you see in our image we have these white parts, and surely that is not what you want. To get rid of them quickly, just simply copy that exactly the same texture and put it in the alpha channel. And now you'll get this result currently because this soft option is enabled. Let's uncheck that and see what it does to us. And it says completely get rid of this white color that you can find here. You can easily invert that and say get rid of the black color or anything in between. We talked about the alpha channel before. What I also want to do, I want to enable this round geometry to get somewhat nice surface here on the boundary of this coin. So let's enable that and wait for the results. And you can still see I have some problems which can be really dealt with some options here. And I really don't want to spend time fixing this. We could put this under hypernerves and we would get really nice results. What is important here is we want to generate a normal wave. If I increase these subdivision levels to 7 or 8 or 9 or even 10, I will get really nice results. But the problem is I would add significant render time, and that is not acceptable in production environment. Or even if you have a scene with a lot of objects that are displayed, even with a really fast and powerful computer, your system would crash and you wouldn't be able to render that. The solution is the normal map. Let me just disable this, and just like before, we will select our object and go here under render and bake texture. And here under tag we can play with some options. So we set 1024 by 1024 and this super sampling to 1. And that's what I recommend for the start until you understand these settings a little bit better. I want to set the path to my object. So this is okay. So let's say this is also okay. And I just want to check this normal map. Just this, and here, if you don't see this expanded menu, you have to click on this small arrow here, and only the method here will change. The method will be tangent. So let's hit bake and see what we get. And we will give it some time so it can render this out. And here we go. So now once the normal map has been generated, then normal map is actually an image that contains surface information. So it stores height and depth information that based on our displacements. Okay, so we just bake that down to a normal map, which is specifically designed to provide really fast results and to render really quickly and to represent that surface to maximum extent as displacement. So how long it takes to render with displacement? We will disable displacement. And let's just do a test render and see what our object looks like now. And let's enable this normal map and load our generated map. So this is our file, disk normal.psd. Let's load it. And see now, I will just say no for this, and let's. Now you can see the difference. Okay? This is exactly like, almost exactly like displacement we had. I have to say this normal maps can work really, really good. You can even increase this strength beyond 100%. Let's just bump it up to see the really, really strong effect here. And something like even a smaller effect, but here you can play with some settings. For example, if you check this flip X, it will give you somewhat different results. It's almost like it's changing the color, changing the shadow orientation. Okay? This is not really technically correct, but it will really give you a good understanding. And let me drop this back to 100. And these normal maps can produce really, really good results. But if you really want maximum quality, then displacement is your friend. It gives absolutely, without a doubt, in any situation, it gives the best results you can get. This was just a simple presentation how you can really cut down render times and use these normal maps just to increase the quality without adding render times. Okay, so you can consider all these three guys. So this bump, normal, and displacement. So this bump gives good result, normal gives better results, and displacement always gives the best results. Okay, so let's proceed to our next lesson.